At Relentless Digital, we believe in breaking barriers and driving innovation. That's why we are extremely proud to sponsor the Power Women of the Trades podcast, supporting the voices and success of women in the home service industry. Together, we're creating a future where talent shines, regardless of gender, and diversity thrives. Join our journey at relentless-digital.com and always be relentless in your pursuit of excellence.
This episode of Power Women of the Trades is also brought to you by Forrest Perry of Forrest Perry Digital Marketing. Want to generate more leads for your service business? Trust his team to deliver quality new customer leads and protect your brand online. Check out perrymarketing.com today.
Hello everyone. We want to give a quick shout out to our amazing partner, Rilla, the game changer in the home service industry. Rilla's virtual ride-along software means no more physical ride-alongs. With Rilla, you can coach your team virtually 100 times faster and boost your close sale rates like never before. Don't miss out. Join the movement today and watch your sales soar. Visit rilla.com/PWT to learn more.
Welcome to Power Women of the Trades podcast. This show is all about breaking barriers and changing the game. Our guests will feature some of today's most successful female entrepreneurs and other advocates of our industry as well. Because if there's one thing we know for sure, female-led entrepreneurship drives change on multiple levels. We want to empower women in the trade industry like you so you can maximize your potential, stay balanced, achieve long-term success, and claim ownership over your life. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Power Women of the Trades podcast with Cassie and Heather.
Good morning, Vicky.
Good morning.
We are here today with Vicky Heydon with Southwest Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric. Vicky, where are you from?
I am calling you from the greater Seattle market.
Seattle. Okay. You're in Heather's region. I was not sure. So I'm in Oklahoma, and I'm a little geographically challenged sometimes. Oh.
So just
Didn't you see Michigan? That's me.
3 hours? Okay. So I am seriously geographically challenged. Like, I think I'll know where something is, and I don't know. It was a whole thing one time where I thought Wyoming was not. And then the same thing with Oregon. And then
I'm gonna have you booking calls then. You won't route them right.
Yeah, I'm not booking calls. So anyways, well, welcome to the show, Vicky. So you are the general manager for Southwest Plumbing?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, how did you get into the trades?
I have only worked in non-sexy industries. So the idea of joining plumbing didn't scare me. I was looking for more of like a company fit than industry specific. I was previously in cooking oil, which is also not sexy. And so after leaving corporate operations and sales, I was looking for a place that I could grow. And I just was really invigorated by talking to the general manager at that time about the brand and their vision for the future, and then realized very quickly, oh yeah, I just had a sewer line repair on my house and could relate to the experience, and the rest is history.
I always say, like, sales is sales, and if you have sales experience, sales is sales, marketing's marketing. Now, obviously, like, our trade specific, you've got to gain the knowledge, but when you're jumping into something, and this is just like life advice, I've always said, don't be afraid to apply for a position, even if you have no experience. Like, at the root of it, what they're looking for is typically finance, marketing, or sales experience.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. So you applied for this position. You became the general manager.
So I joined as the vice president of operations. At the time that I joined, that was direct line to the general manager. And the operations organization was essentially everything but marketing and finance in our world. And at that time, we were just Southwest Plumbing. We then have since become Southwest Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electric. And I took over the GM position about a year and a half ago.
How big of a company is Southwest?
It's a pretty big company. We are about a $75 million home services company in the Seattle market.
Awesome.
Okay, you have multiple locations in the Seattle market.
We have a couple different office locations. Our main operations all work out of our main building. But yes, we have started to kind of branch out to like more of a satellite model for convenience and operational efficiency to help some of the guys that live further north and south. It's a pretty big territory.
Like, can you explain, what the journey looked like when you decided to add HVAC and electric? Did you do it at the same time?
We did it pretty quickly. So first we broke out the sewer line from our plumbing. And so we have an underground division. So that was the first delineation from plumbing. And that was kind of like crazy 72 hours in a conference room talking through how does this impact the operations? What's the process flow? What do we need from dispatch support? What are the pay plans that are necessary to launch this? Who in our team fits into what profiles better? So that was like a war room 72-hour breakout. And that was kind of a natural break from the plumbing division to kind of separate the sewer line, sewer and drains versus plumbing, focus plumbing on more the freshwater versus the sewer line. And then about 7 months later, we started talking about electrical division and launching electrical because that was more of a service model similar to the plumbing model, whereas HVAC is obviously you've got a turnover process and a little more complications. We went to electrical next, and that took us a little bit more time. We didn't have anything in our price book that was electrical focused. We didn't have anyone on our team that were electricians. It wasn't as natural of a break. So that took hiring the right leader to be our main first electrician, someone that bought into the vision and wanted to work through all those things and would take pride in helping launch that to give us the credibility, the right people on the license and the contracting knowledge that we needed. Because at that point, we knew what we needed from a business standpoint, but we didn't know what this looked like to everyone else, right? And then leveraging some of our other sister organizations that had electrical was very helpful in helping establish what we wanted our price book and services offerings to be. But we've always kind of operated under the mindset that if you hire the right people, then you can kind of figure it out from there and you can refine it over time. So making sure you get the right people to join your team that are going to represent your culture first and foremost. You typically have to pay more to get those people to join you because you're selling them a vision of a future, and then building from there. And you can build up your divisions by having apprentices that are about to test out. And that was one of our strategies as well, is take a little bit of a loss on the beginning to get the right pipeline of guys that are moldable, that are about to become electricians, and build them the last few steps of the way.
That's a really big piece there, is taking that initial like hit, right? Because we've done that multiple times where we've pulled in new license, like people who are ready to test or will soon be ready. And so we've taken like their last 6 months before they could test and put them in a van where they're just in training mode with someone. And there were so many times that we were told like, that's affecting your margin. Well, obviously, but it was for the greater purpose. And then that helped us like, boom, be able to grow and push trucks out quicker. But it a 6-month hit, right? And I don't think everyone always has the like goal to do that. It's like, the number doesn't look up for a little bit.
Well, if you take that into account, you're going to code it to training somewhere. So you're going to spend that money regardless of whether you have a guy in a truck that's ready to test out or you just keep him in the shop. You're spending the money for that employee anyway. And you just have to keep that in mind, I think. But doing that allows you to, like you said, Vicky, mold your people the way that you want them to be. You don't have any bad habits to break if you're getting them early enough.
Right. And there's so many contractors that just don't take care of their apprentices and don't submit those hours. So you've got a lot of people out there that are very close to getting to the finish line, but they've never had anyone invest in helping them get over that line. Right. So it's like if you go and you find those people, you are already building credibility as an organization of someone that cares and is going to invest in their future, and you set them up for success, then those are typically our most loyal employees at that moment. Right. So it is definitely worth the investment, but you have to know very clearly what profile of people you're looking for. We hire, and I specifically say this, from management down to the technician level, and I participate in any interview that I can across our entire organization. We hire for grit, absolutely, right? And a lot of these people that are stuck and are trying to get their license over the line, they just don't know what to do. If they knew what to do, they would have done it by now, right? So you have to validate that their hours have been submitted. You have to find out how much and how long it's going to take them to get there. And then you spend time helping them, and we build that into our support staff with our HR department and stay engaged with them from a GM level down so that they're already used to having that engagement with the office. You can't really do that if you take them from infancy. They're just getting into a truck and starting to turn a wrench. That's a little bit of a longer game that you have to kind of evaluate. Are they going to be a good long-term fit for us? Whereas if you find someone that's really hungry and ready to go and you just help them through the last portion, you're kind of building that like last amount of fire that they need to be successful.
Right. What is your mix? Are you like residential, commercial?
We're all residential. We do like soft commercial, right? A small business, sushi restaurant calls us because their drains are backed up when they need gas it, but we're primarily residential.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you have an awesome company and organization that your employees love. What does your day-to-day look like for you? LOL. I always say this and everyone's like,
it's fast paced. It is, I can go into a day having my day fully baked out and it can go a million different directions. I think in the trades.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
Yeah. It's, you think you're doing one thing today and then you're really doing 5 other things. But I have a pretty good support staff in terms of my executive leadership team with my directors, and we kind of all divide and conquer. And so we typically huddle every morning. I spend the first few hours of the day typically trying to engage with the staff. That's when your technicians are in. So it's maximizing that time to see them, because sometimes you don't see them for a week otherwise. Our different divisions have their weekly meetings with their staff. And so I go around those meetings and try to be at a different one every different day that I can get into one and participate and get the FaceTime with the field, walk through the warehouse, make sure I know what's happening, can see what's going on outside of the building, and then talk to the accounting team, make sure they're all good. If there's anything on fire that we have to address, then I'm typically engaged, because they'll oftentimes not tell me until they think I have time to deal with it, right? So just making sure you're saying hi, if anyone needs anything, what's going on. And then really just pushing the dispatchers in the call center, like get people moving. Like the last thing you want in this business is for people to have too much downtime. You have to get them out the door, right? So that's the push from 7 to 8 that you're trying to remind the dispatchers to get them dispatched. Hey guys, go get coffee and wait for your call, but leave them alone. Call the customer. You guys standing in the firm from the night before. So that push is, I think, the same in most businesses. And then after the teams get out the door, we have our morning management huddle. And we look at our business as, did we win yesterday? And are we in a position to win today? And so our huddle is a look back from yesterday's results and then a prediction of where you think you're going to be today. And all the managers report out. And then we talk about if we need to pivot or adjust, or how we're pacing for the month, or
what does
else
win
we need to do.
the day look like for your team?
We are definitely a results-driven business. So winning the day means that we hit the minimum requirements on opportunities ran, and therefore revenue completed or sales gained for future revenue, right? So if I know I need to do $75,000 in revenue in my department that day, did I hit that or not? And if I thought I was going to win yesterday, why didn't I win, right? I didn't run enough opportunities. We got tied up on jobs, but didn't close out additional sales. So we look at it on a pretty granular level, but at a very quick pace every morning.
So when you go through your huddle, because we do the same thing at Quality, and it's awesome for the team, what are some of the common issues that you see that you need to address after immediately following that huddle? Is there a common thing that you see happening? And then if it is a common thing that you identify,
Yeah, absolutely.
changes in place to pivot the operation or the process?
Yes, we reserve the right to pivot at any moment in that huddle. I think that's why you have to do it every day. So if the call board doesn't have enough opportunity on it, the immediate action is typically we need to be outbounding, and we need to be outbounding to fill this side of the board, right? HVAC looks good, but we need to fill up more electrical inspections and get our electricians in more houses today. They need at least 15 a day. Who's going to jump on the phones and help them with that? So the call center is a pretty easy action that you can identify looking at the day and looking at the pace for the month. On operations, what I would typically challenge is, hey, you've had 3 or 4 great sales days. When is that work getting completed? Let's review your install calendar. And so we have a follow-up meeting operationally 2 times a week where we are evaluating everything that's sold versus completed, and then where is it at? HVAC is a common one where HOAs hold things up endlessly. So we can't celebrate the sale unless we have it on the install calendar. And so that deeper dive is typically in that follow-through meeting with the operational leaders to say, where is your install calendar versus what have you sold month to date? Because you can't count it until the check's in the mail, right? So it's always that gap between you sold it, you celebrated the win versus when does that customer actually have heat, right?
Most businesses' online presence is boring. And by being boring, they're losing out on potential sales and customers. Being interesting and exciting is what draws customers in and gets them to buy from you. But it's hard to be interesting online when you're focused on running your business and taking care of your customers. It doesn't have to be this way. We have the key to unlocking the solution to your problem. Key Heart Marketing can help take your business from boring to brilliant on social media. We can vouch for them. They run our podcast socials. If you want to have a strong social media presence that allows customers to know, like, and trust you, connect with Key Heart Marketing at keyheartmarketing.com.
I had to grab a pen and write down, we've reserved the right to pivot. It's so funny to me because, yes, are you guys Nexstar now? Yes, you are Nexstar.
Okay, this sounds very Nexstar because that's what we do too.
We're catching the vibe of Nexstar, and we talk about Nexstar so often, and I hope our listeners, if you need an intro to Nexstar, reach out to me, Heather, Vicky, someone. Like, Nexstar is game changer for operations for your company, but I was catching the vibe that you guys were probably Nexstar. But we talk all the time about this is what we're doing. this is the plan. But then when it didn't go great yesterday, maybe identify it in our huddle, or we miss something and we give a new direction, right? Oftentimes, not always our managers and directors, but maybe our CSRs or dispatchers or someone else in the office is like, well, that's not how we normally do it. And I'm not going to be like, we reserve the right to pivot. It's because sometimes we just have to. Yeah, that isn't how we normally do it. That isn't. But if I can tell you that in our business, a lot of our wins are because we pivot.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the times, like, we make a change quick. Just like you said, you added electric in 72 hours, or was that
Some people do a division.
72 hours? Sometimes people take too long to make a change. And then by the time you make the change,
The game's changed again.
that's changed again. And so I can always tell, like with us specifically, we're fast movers. We do it quickly. And sometimes I might give you whiplash, but we've got to be ready to pivot and move. And so I love that. I love that perspective. And I love that you agree with me, because watch me sniff this and send this to our team. I say that all the time, and they're going to be like, well, I never do it, but hopefully they listen. It's ever changing,
Absolutely.
I think that customers, I used to think like we're going to houses and we're going to like everything is different. Everything.
Yeah. I mean, just the market alone right now is changing, right? Like we talk about this all the time with my staff. Everyone said like, oh, but everyone will chill out after the election. I'm like, no, 50% of people are going to be disenfranchised on one side or the other. And the people that were maybe stressed out feel good now, but then the people that were feeling good are now stressed out. Like the market is evolving. And as generations of people move out of houses and things change and the market changes, we have to evolve with that. So I can respect that you've been in the industry for 15 years, but I assure you the companies that are not keeping up with us are the ones that are still doing the things that they did 15 years ago, right?
Well, ours now is now. How you identify the difference and stay ahead of your competitor by pivoting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And moving quickly. I 100% agree with that. And Cassie and I talk about that all the time.
I can't, it's always the election, the get after this or go past this, or the economist said this, or yada, 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 yada. And I'm like, guys and gals, it doesn't matter. I mean, first of all, if we survive COVID, in my professional opinion, I think we'll be fine on anything else. But also, like, the second that is your mentality, you're already missing the mark, because I just don't subscribe to those. I don't really care what everyone else is doing. Right now everyone's talking about tariffs. Okay, we'll change our price. I'm not saying be irresponsible and not pay attention, but if we're only focused on that, if we're only you get hyper focused on that, what are we today in our business going to do to change that?
Right.
Like, we can't make those tariffs go away. We can't make this stuff go away. We will change our price. Unfortunately, that's what will happen. And so will the cost of eggs and bread, But if we're just like, okay, the world's over because of tariffs, I think what happens is companies do go into that, and then they limit themselves because they're so doomsday in their brains.
Well, when the focus is, I think, primarily on why things
do
can't happen, that perspective has to be changed. So, we just had an ice storm in Oklahoma 2 weeks ago, and it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do about it? People still need services. We're essential services. We can't focus on why we can't do something. We have to figure out, okay, these tariffs, they're not in our control. What is in our control? What can we change?
Right.
And that's where the focus needs to be driven. And if you can get your team on board with that, I fully believe that the limiting beliefs will stop.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And our teams want to know that someone's got it under control. I think that we discount that a lot, because they need to know that there's security in their job. They need to know that someone has their livelihood under control. And if you just operate under what if too much, I just think you scare the hell out of your team.
Totally. You have to be the voice of reason at all times, right? So I try to I think that's why it's important to have FaceTime too, right? You can't be a leader that doesn't connect with them. You have to be the one that's going to challenge them and cut the conversation off if they're going to the what if and the doomsday. You also have to be the one that tells them about, hey, we've already thought about this. You guys are used to a business that changes their prices and evolves. So congratulations, we're ahead of it already. You don't have to worry about it. We did that in December, right? We saw this coming. That's great. You're used to this. Change is evolution. We do it all the time here. So they become used to that. But you're right. They have to hear from you that you've thought about it and you're not burying your head in the sand. We have to be in front of it. And so although it sometimes feels like the topics you're trying to teach them don't directly pertain to the job that they're doing, if they hear enough from you, then they're more apt to follow along and buy into what you're saying, right? And that's the requirement as the leader, is that you have to present the vision and the strategy to get there.
100%.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I like when we're talking about, it might not always apply to what they're doing in their day to day, but it's hard to work your butt off off all day long, go home to flip the news on and see all this stuff and just think, oh, like people in my own life and my own family will be like, are you guys going to be okay? And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Yeah.
Is there another option?
Well, right. There's not another option, but like that's already been assessed, planned for, moved on, right? We're just taking care of people today. We're taking care of our people, our employee and staffers, our customers, and like we're just taking care of people, and all that other stuff works out. Hiring Heather to work with us has been amazing. Having a CFO just be like, okay, we got to pivot, make a change, do this, and we even catch those things quicker. But I just think people, I've seen the things like, okay, well, we're gonna have a meeting next Friday about this. Let's use tariffs or tariff plan or a COVID plan or whatever, and I'm like, it's Wednesday. You're next Friday, you're in a whole new game, right? Like there's too much changing before then. You got to be acting way quick.
Yeah, have a meeting now. Let's not waste any time. Spend 10 or 15 minutes talking about it. Move on. You have to move fast. You have to keep moving fast. And that's what I love about the trades.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You see memes and jokes and things that go around, but like the email that was about the meeting 2 months ago and nothing got implemented. I have hated that out of corporate America for the 28 years I've been doing this. I love that in the trades, we don't just have meetings for the sake of having meetings. We have meetings with a purpose and intentional.
Right.
We leave the meeting, we implement immediately.
Right.
There's nothing worse than having a meeting and spending 2 or 3 hours out of your day or week, and then you leave that meeting and nothing gets done. So what was the gain out of that time spent on a meeting that went nowhere?
Absolutely. Our staff, our plumbers and electricians probably think we have meetings to have meetings, right? From their perspective. Like, oh, they're in a meeting again, right? They think that. But you're right. That's part of what I love about this trade as well, is you don't have as much bureaucracy that you have to work through. There's not as much red tape. You can change something today and you can have a result by tomorrow. That is one of the most invigorating things about this. I don't know that I will be in another industry after that, because you have to then go back to other industries. And I joke about this with my wife all the time. Like, she works from home. She works for a big company. And I'm like, isn't that the same meeting you had last week? Like, how many more meetings? It's like everyone is like passive aggressive on this entire meeting about another meeting about another meeting. I don't even know what she does half the time, because I'm like, no, we're doing this today. Like, that's
right. I know. I have to say, they say about my husband's industry. My husband works in orthopedic surgery, and the speed that they actually make changes and do things is so much slower than what we do in the HVAC, plumbing, electrical, home service space, that he and I often, I'm like, are you guys still talking about that? Like,
What do you mean? How does
came up 4 months ago. How has this not been handled yet? It was like, not your industry. It's not the same.
So you sound like you're pretty passionate about like professional development. What do you do to encourage and develop your leadership team?
I am passionate about it. I think in most cases, on the black and white business side of it, how much does it cost to replace that employee, right? Like, that's a lot of money and investment time. It takes time from your recruiter to your business unit leader to your general manager. Sometimes, like, it's a lot to go get people, and we absolutely will go get people. That's not to say we won't. But once they're here, what are we doing to make sure that they're successful? Because I do believe that people do not typically leave companies. They leave managers and they leave leaders. That's usually the first area where they're like, I could have dealt with this process break, but I don't like this person, right? So you have to stay engaged with them, and you also have to be aiding them in their lives. Something, Cassie, about how much people like structure. I agree with that. And I think that even if teams are resistant or employees are resistant to the changes you're putting in place, they typically all gravitate towards the structure, and they like it and they appreciate it. So if you're not giving that to your team and you're living in chaos every day, you're not giving them a roadmap or the next step, you're not being just that honest with them. Okay, we've done this. Now we're going to do this. You're not for the why. They believe that you don't have a plan. And that's where the thoughts start to creep in about, well, if they don't know what they're doing, I can't work for these people, right? So I do believe people like structure, and you have to stay engaged with your staff and you have to give them the next thing. I think that's also true with high performers, is that if you're not giving them something to work towards, they get bored. And then if they get bored, the same thought creeps in about, I wonder if there's more exciting things over at this company, right? There's no shortage of home service companies in our markets, and they all go to the same parts houses. They all go to the same places. They all know plumbers that work at other companies. So if you don't provide that investment in your staff and you don't keep them engaged, keep working on things that are exciting for them, then it is inevitable that they will either out of boredom start looking, or out of lack of belief in what you're building towards.
Yeah, gosh, you're so spot on with that. And I think that we all struggle with it. Yeah, I see Cassie taking notes on this. These are really valuable nuggets that you're dropping here, that I'm loving this conversation because it's so true with our team. We want to make sure that they're engaged. And even for us as leaders in the leadership team and the executives, we need that too. Just, that we don't want to get complacent.
Yeah. We, like in our company right now, we are in a big growth year, but we're also in a big change year, a big, like, specific KPIs, specific costs, specific things. And it's like, it's happening so quickly, but we're just staying ahead of it. But I have been able to sit back and watch our team take ownership of things that I held them back from being able to do previously, because I didn't want them to have the burden, or I didn't want them to have that, or I didn't want them to have to feel the pain when it didn't work. And now I'm like, no, we all feel it together. We all understand together. And we've made so much movement from that point because I've allowed them to do that through Heather basically making me, but because they wanted the structure, and I needed to help them grow as leaders too. And so it's not just the technician, it's every position needs structure, needs the ability to make decisions and not be like a talking bobblehead of what they're allowed to do. I think that's a huge piece too, that, they're not parrots. We're not all.
That's a huge.
Yeah. So quick of like, this is the training, this is what we said to do, but you're still a human in a customer's house. That's another human, or you're still talking, we're not just talking parrots over here. So yeah, it's crazy. It's interesting. It's always interesting for me. And I know Heather also, we talk to people of all different parts of the country, talk to people in Canada, and at the root of it, it is all the same. We are all operating with people, and we all are operating with the same plans. We're either faster than each other, we're adapting quicker, or we've, spent more time in leadership to do whatever. But at the root of it, it's all the same. It's just what you do with your day-to-day that helps yourself in the long run.
Absolutely.
Well, Vicky, so what's the plan for Southwest this year?
Kind of think about plumbing. You go into someone's house, you know what the end result is, you know what the end that you're trying to get to, but you have to give them tools to get there. And over time, I think organizations can add things in that were a good opportunity at one point, but then it ultimately becomes kind of a time suck where it bogs people down. And so if you constantly looking at what barriers can I remove from my staff and what can I empower them with, there's always something to do. And I do believe that as large of a company as we are at this moment, most of our high performers are already on our team. Most of our staff is already there. It's just now, how do you encourage those people to be better? And what do you do, right? Is it you give more product line training and you start the cross-selling opportunities? Or do you invest more in guys that are at the middle of the pack and see how much higher you can get them in their day-to-day performance? There's something different, and everyone is at a different part of that journey. So it's breaking them up into smaller teams and helping them get better on what area they need help in. They might be a great invoice writer, but they're not great at communicating to the customer on what they're doing. So how do you aid that person versus the one who's over communicating and, not giving enough options or something like that? So it's just refinement at this point to challenge ourselves to be better than we already are.
Yeah, I like it. Well, it's been really great talking to you and learning more about what you're doing over there in Seattle. I almost said a word. Yeah, Seattle. I know. It's over there on that coast. And learning more about Southwest. I would love to meet you sometime. Hopefully we can catch up at a Next Star event or something. Yeah, good job, girl. Thank you. Sound like you got it really together. And at the same time, I always say that. You sound like you got it together. But at the end of the day, I know for sure that every day leaving, do I though? We all have our doubts and our moments. We have our moments.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. And thank you for joining us. And like I said, hopefully we can catch up soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Sounds
Vicky.
great.
It's been great talking to you.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Cassie.
This has been Power Women of the Trades. Like what you hear so far? Leave us a review at Apple, and make sure to listen to our other episodes wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.